What's going on, guys? Today we're looking at another NBA GM draft profile. And today we're looking at Landry Fields of the Atlanta Hawks. Landry Fields played college basketball at Stanford, where he had a good career, and then was able to latch on with the New York Knicks, where he had a good couple, 2-3 year run there with the Knicks, especially at the end, where he was part of a really fun team with Jeremy Lin. But more importantly, he was part of that team where he started alongside Gallinari and Wilson Chandler and Raymond Felton and Amari Stoudemire, where there was a few month stretch where the Knicks were a lot of fun to watch before they traded for Carmelo Anthony. Then, after his stint with the Knicks, he was able to parlay it into a good 3-year contract with the Raptors, where unfortunately he had a lot of injuries and just never really recovered, and that was the end of his NBA career. And so by 2016, he had become a college scout with the San Antonio Spurs. Before 2019, he moves into the GM role with the Austin Spurs of the G League. And then in October of 2020, he becomes the assistant GM for the Atlanta Hawks. And that date, I think, is important because Landry Fields was around for the Hawks' run to the Eastern Conference Finals. So he got to see how good the team could be, in theory, being led by Trae Young. And then he was also around for the next couple of years where after that Eastern Conference Finals run, the team really wasn't able to kind of get back to those same levels. And on June 13th, 2022, just before that 2022 NBA draft, Landry Fields was named the general manager of the Atlanta Hawks. And his first official piece of business was the 2022 NBA draft. And at pick 16 in the first round, he made his first pick as a GM with A.J. Griffin. And A.J. Griffin had a good start to his NBA career. He really found a role as a rookie, and then his sophomore year did not pan out great, and they ended up trading him during the 2024 draft. Additionally, in the second round, they had pick 44, which they traded to the Warriors for Tyrese Martin and Cash, who was pick 51 in the second round. Martin had 1 year with the Hawks before he was waived and then played in the G League. So first two picks have not panned out great for Landry Fields. And I think really the thing for me, as we'll get into here with the Dejounte Murray trade next, is I think Landry Fields, 3 years into his general manager tenureship, is on the hot seat. And the Dejounte Murray trade. So what was interesting to me is he's responsible for both ends of the Dejounte Murray trades. So for the first end, we're going to go in chronological order here. Just after the draft, Dejounte Murray is traded from the Spurs to the Hawks, and they also got Jock Landale. They gave up to the Spurs Danilo Gallinari, who definitely was on the latter end of his career, was more salary filler at this point. A 2023 protected first from Charlotte, and then 2025 and 2027 first rounders unprotected, along with an unprotected 2026 first round pick swap. So at face value, those 3 first round picks plus a swap. That pick from Charlotte does not look like it's going to convey. So it's really 2 first round picks and a swap. And at the time, there was question marks, but I think a lot of people thought it made some sense. You're trying to get Trae Young off the ball. You're playing him with a bigger guard next to him. And you're trying to get Trae Young open threes while pairing him with a good defensive guard, in theory. And obviously, a couple years later, that did not pan out. And we're going to get into the second part of the Dejounte Murray trade in a bit here. But quickly, let's move into the 2023 draft, where the Hawks have the 15th pick in that draft, and they end up taking Kobe Buffkin. And Kobe had, I guess, some flashes as a rookie. He only appeared in 17 games, spent the majority of his time with the G League. I didn't see a ton of him, so I don't have a great feel for him. But overall, I can't say he looks like a really promising pick as of right now. And then in the second round, they had a couple of players come in. So they used their own pick at pick 46 for Seth Lundy, who again mostly spent most of his time with the G League. Didn't play much for the Hawks. Not sure that one's going to pan out. And then they picked at pick 30, 39. They got the rights to Mohamed Gay from the Boston Celtics in exchange for a 2027 second round pick. So you got 3 guys in that draft, and none of them really played much for them in last season. So they're still very young. We'll see how it pans out, but it wasn't like it was a great Hawks team that they were competing for minutes on. In 2024 draft, the Hawks win the lottery. They end up with the first pick, and it's a little bittersweet. You win the lottery, that's great, but at the same time, it's not the year you'd want to win the lottery, right? And so they pick Zachary Risache, who I think, profiles as a good, 3-and-D wing role player kind of guy, but he is not a typical number 1 pick that, could change the direction of your team. And so there's not a lot of hope, I would say, in terms of him becoming, a out-and-out all-star, all-NBA guy. And then at pick 43, they traded A.J. Griffin to get pick 43 in a 3-team deal, which netted them Nikola Duricic, who looked pretty good, I will say, not only in the Summer League, but also in the Combine scrimmages. And so I thought that was a good pick. It did cost them A.J. Griffin. So you're trading a guy who was a first-round pick 2 years ago for a second-round pick now. Not necessarily the best look. And I think that theme kind of comes up again here as we move into the Dejounte Murray trade, where it's clear, yes, he had to move on from either Murray or Trae Young. I think Murray was easier to move, but you get back a 2025 first-rounder from the Lakers, a 2027 least favorable first-rounder from either the Bucks or the Pelicans. So the Pelicans will get whichever pick of those is better, and then the Hawks will take the worst pick of that. So that's going to be somewhere in the 20s. They also got Larry Nance, who's a serviceable backup big. EJ Liddell, who I like, but is certainly, a project at this point. Not necessarily a project, but a guy who needs, minutes and opportunity. And Dyson Daniels, who, of all of the assets they got back, as far as I'm concerned, has the most promise of turning into something that could really help the Hawks as a defensive wing. And really, for me, looking at the track record here for Landry Fields, the draft history, plus Dejounte Murray, if I was a Hawks fan, I'd be a little bit concerned, maybe a little bit more than a little bit, but I'd be concerned about the direction of this team. The picks they gave up for Dejounte Murray obviously were a lot more valuable than what they got back. And to me, that's, again, with that A.J. Griffin deal, it's become a little bit of a theme with these moves from Landry Fields. He really, really needs Jalen Johnson to take another step forward this year for the Hawks to have a real chance at competing for a playoff spot, because otherwise, outside of Trae Young and Bogdan Bogdanovic, there's not a lot of above-average talent on this team. And so, yes, you've got Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu, who are good, average to maybe above-average centers. You got DeAndre Hunter. It's not a terrible team, but it's not a good team, and that's kind of the worst place to be in the NBA, where you're looking at a play-in berth or just outside the play-in. So I'm curious what you guys think about Landry Fields' GM track record so far. Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel for more basketball content. I'll see you guys next time. Please tell a friend. Peace.